Guys, what's up? Welcome to the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I'm your host, Mouzon, Chris, financial coach, financial therapist, financial whatever you want to call me. That's me. I'm missing my guy, Kobi. I think he's running a little bit late, but I wanted to get started just to talk to you guys. So thanks everybody tuning in here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We're excited to jump back in. Today, we were supposed to dive in and talk about how to reset and plan for this fourth quarter. Man, it's almost October. I don't know if everyone is like me, but I have no idea where this year went. I have no idea where this year went. It's already coming up, 3 quarters done. We're about to head into the fourth quarter of the year, October, November, December. Some of you here on the East Coast, you're seeing the weather change a little bit. Maybe even, right? Other parts of the country, Midwest or the South, you're seeing the weather change a little bit. West Coast probably still the same. It's only 2 seasons out there. It never rains in Southern California, even though it does. I'm joking. But now we're heading into this next season. We just came off the summer. Some of us just had a busy summer. Some of us, the summer was super productive for us. It was a time for us to recalibrate in our business. It could have been time to recalibrate with your family. Some people probably did some traveling, got a chance to maybe see different parts of the country or see a little bit more of the world. Now we get back into that fall season a bit, come back into that fall season. And now we're starting to see, again, weather shift changing, things moving a bit differently. And now we're about to head into the fourth quarter of this year, the end of the year. And we got to make sure that we're starting to plan, starting to have a plan for the rest of the year, right? You guys hear us talk about it a lot on the show about planning, about making sure that you have a plan for where you're headed. And there's no better time like the present. I see my co-host jumping in here. Kobi, I had to start without you, man. I had to go live. I had to let the people know you were coming. You're going to be a little bit late, but we're here.
Test, 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 test.
Testing is good, man. I hear
We
you.
are here.
That's it. We're here. What's up, brother? How's your day?
Excellent, brother. So just rolling out of class here.
Mm.
Um,
Oh yeah, that's right. You did tell me that. I was like, I thought you said something about it, but yeah. So what are you back in class for? You want to tell the people?
yeah, so I am in class now for acupuncture, just rolling out of Western medical terminology.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we will. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But right now, man, I am ready to go. I'm ready to roll, and hopefully, I'll get that squared away and be rolling right out of there and into here pretty right on time.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. It's all good. I was telling the people right before you jumped on that we were talking about today how to kind of reset your health, how to start to plan for this fourth quarter, October, November, December, as we're heading into the end of the year, so to speak, the final quarter of the year. We wanted to give people some insight on how to go into it with a plan, how to
Let's do
reset
it.
themselves. So, if you're good to go, man, talk to me about kind of your thoughts on how would someone, I mean, this the topic, how would someone reset their health, or what are the things that they need to pay attention to heading into this fourth quarter for their health, man?
So I think one of the things to do, and if my sound's coming in all right, I'm just go for it here. One of the things to do is kind of realizing when it's time to hit reset, if you will, right? And I got a couple of things jotted down here, some signs to take a look for. One of them is extreme fatigue. Now, if you've been moving around and you got
Mm.
extreme fatigue like I do, that might not be it. But if you have just out of nowhere, if you have extreme fatigue, it's more than normal. That's something that's definitely a sign to look out for. Another one will be brain fog. So if you're
Mm.
coming out of nowhere and you're having you're just feeling like you're kind of in a mental fog all the time. Um, mood swings is another one for sure. If you're again unexplained, okay, if there's something else going on, obviously not, but mood swings, extreme like actually I would take extreme out of it, but if you're really craving sugar,
Mm.
right, craving sugar, um especially after you eat, like if you eat and then you're craving something sugary, if you really like, I really need some dessert, that's something to look out for as well. Constipation or diarrhea for sure. That tells you your body is not holding on to things the same way. um, and then obviously unexplained like weight gain, right? Or even weight loss, unexplained weight loss, if you have that as well. So headaches is another one, right? So if you have just headaches, so those are some things that you really need to kind of reset your system. Um, and
That's
when I
so
say
so that's 90% of the population, I guess. I think people are dealing with all those. I mean, think about it. Extreme fatigue and fatigue is one thing, right? But like mood swings,
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of women. No, I'm joking. Don't cancel
don't
us,
do it,
women.
man.
I know I won't. I won't. I won't. I won't. But these things seem like they would affect a lot of people, though.
Right, right. That is true. And honestly, these are, I mean, there's signs of a lot of different. There's signs of imbalance in general,
Mm.
and of course, like I said, if it's something that oh, okay, I know what this is, and I'm gonna make sure we stay out of trouble here. But if you know what you're like, oh, okay, I feel like I know what this is. But if it's unexplained,
Mm.
right, and if it's prolonged, like if it's a little worse than normal, like if it's not something that you're used to, like it's something you've had before and kind of you have a good idea of kind of what it is. um and a lot of these things are connected, right? We're talking about imbalance in the system. So if you have imbalance, I mean, it could be a lot of different things and it could be connected, but usually, food is related, or is assigned, and usually it's kind of like one of those things where doctors, like if you go in, they'll check for multiple different things and then they'll try to narrow down as to like what is it, right?
Mhm.
um but yeah, if it's unexplained, you don't know what it is, it's not anything normal, it's not anything within the normal scope, then I would look at a general reset is going to be like kind of like a bomb that you can hit, like one of those things you put in the room to get rid of bugs, in generally speaking. So yeah, I'll definitely look for that. Obviously, if you've been in a season where you're actively doing things that would cause an imbalance, right? So let's take myself, for you've been in a season of super high stress, you've been
Right.
in a season of really weird hours, irregular hours, whether it be from work, whether it be from you in general, where your food has suddenly changed dramatically, or your intake has changed from like you've actually changed what you're eating dramatically.
Mm.
Um, those sort of things, like, I mean, that's going to be obviously a clear indication of something happening. Um, and again, we're going to stay out of trouble here, but I mean, in general, you really want to pay attention to those things. And it's kind of funny because women actually do have like a better insight into these things because they're more so forced to kind of pay closer attention to patterns, right?
Mm.
Closer attention to patterns as to what's going on with them. But I would encourage men to pay attention to this as well. I mean, this is these are indications of things way before it gets serious,
Yeah.
right? And not to say this isn't serious, but way before it gets to a point where you can't kind of go backwards or you can't kind of take care of those things. So yeah, I think those would be signs to pay attention to.
And I
Frequent
think
colds is another one I missed. Go ahead.
yeah, frequent call. I was gonna say, like, I think again, for the listeners and the value that we're adding, like again, awareness is key, right? None of these things are isolated. I know I talked to
Mm,
some people that might think like, oh man, had a headache for a couple of days. Man, I don't know what it is, right? Like
mm.
right, like they're not aware that these things might be correlated. That high stress, I'll tie this in for a second with money, something that I've seen. I was gonna maybe save this till later in the show, but I'll throw it out right now, right? Like something I've always seen is that having a lack of a financial plan or getting stressed over money leads to a lot of this stuff also,
Yeah,
right? leads
yeah,
leads to a lot of these, some of the stuff, the signs, right? It could
yeah.
be the headaches, it could be the mood swings, it could be a lot of that stuff that literally the root of it is your stress level around finances,
Hmm.
around what's happening in your financial life. And
Hmm.
so maybe there's just some things you can also do on that side to say, hey, give myself a little more of a, a solid plan or some clarity
Yeah.
on the things that are stressing me out the most, and then watch how that also plays out in your health.
Yeah, yeah, and you, what you did there, brother, is identifying a common source of stress for a lot of folks, right?
Hmm.
And we know stress in and of itself, leads to a lot of these things, and that is one of them, right? For sure, money,
Hmm.
relationships. Money, whichever one comes first, right? Which one causes the other,
That's
right?
right.
So
That's right.
um,
And I think
it,
people, and again, people should pay attention to this stuff because there are fixes to it. Like there are solutions to it. Like you don't have to live in high stress around your money, which then in turns to high stress in your relationship and high stress in your health and all of these things, right? Like these are changes, these are things that can be changed.
yeah,
These are course corrections in your life once you become aware of it, to say, huh, maybe I just need this plan in place. And then some of these other things might fall in place as well. So definitely money is a common stressor. It's a common stressor for a lot of people. And as we're talking about how to reset for the fourth quarter, there might be some things you need to do financially to reset also. So
yeah,
continue, man.
yeah, and obviously we're going to dive a lot deeper into that, but I think the first step, as we always talk about, is awareness. Bringing awareness to the fact that, oh, this is happening, and then maybe identifying the source, right? Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's very obvious once you become aware what the source is.
Mm,
Okay, so if you identify, hey, I'm stressed. I'm stressed about money or a family financial situation. You know, at that point, it might become pretty clear, or it might be very helpful to put a plan around it, bring some clarity around it, and that in and of itself might bring some peace to the situation and cool the source of stress and lead you to feel better, put you into action, which can often lead to alleviations of the stress, right?
right.
And I don't know if you want to go deeper into that side of things, bro. I think because that's where we want to spend the rest of the episode is.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can elaborate more on it because again, how are we attacking some of this stress? How are we attacking some of this financial stress? It's really different for everybody. But if there was kind of one thing I could dive into, it's really just having a plan. Guys, I often sound like a broken record. As I
Mhm.
say things, I'm like, man, I feel like I say the same stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But it's just because it's the tried and true stuff.
Yep.
It's something that I've seen work for people. I've seen it work for myself. I've given people this this tracking sheet that we use a lot of times that says, hey, if you're unfamiliar with your money, you don't know where your money is going, if you at least start tracking it, you'll feel better about it. No matter how much of it you have, how much of it you're wasting or spending or whatever the case is, if you just can look at it and kind of dive into your money and see what's there and see where it's going, and, or some of the sayings I say is, see where the holes are in your boat, because everybody's got a couple holes, small holes in their boat, in their financial boat, so to speak, where money just kind of seeps out, but they're tiny. And so we don't often pay attention to them. But if you can start finding some of those things and really get a plan around your money, it alleviates so much stress just by knowing what's there and what's not there. So oftentimes we go the other way and kind of don't look at it. But um, looking at the money is probably the number one thing I could tell people to really start alleviating some of that stress around money specifically. Yeah.
Man, it's that simple. What we gonna do for the rest of the show?
I have no idea, dude. Because I really don't. Because like honestly, it's so funny because they're. I say this. They try to make money complicated and they try to make life complicated, and that's why I love doing the show. Also, because just health and wealth, right, goes hand in hand. They tried to make us feel like our health is something we have to again pass off responsibility to somebody else. I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know why my body does this. I don't understand. But there's probably some simple things that you could be doing to really be able to again reset or really calibrate where you are. And it's the same thing with money, right? There's some basic foundational things. You make sure that they're in place. You make sure that you're paying attention to them. And then obviously there's wants and things that you want to do, right? Just like in your health, like there's probably changes you want to make or things you want to do. But I promise you that like if you just are aware of kind of what's happening and you're putting some things in place to look at those, right? Those metrics around your money or whatever it is, it's going to give you some peace. It's going to give you some clarity around what needs to happen, right? Um, if we thought about resetting, right, that word resetting, kind of just getting back to a ground level or getting back to a homeostasis, I don't know if that's the right word, right, but just getting back to something that is what your base is. Well, then you have to know what that is financially. You have to know what that is in your health. What does it look like financially to just get back to this bare minimum, this foundation, this floor, and say, okay, I know these things are in place and I feel good about this. And then we build on top of it. Same thing in our health. Some of those warning signs could be that you just said are signs that we're not back at our foundation. We're not back at how our body should be optimally running, and because of that, we have to find the way to do that. I think more people, and I don't know, I'd be curious to hear, I think more people don't know how to do that side with their health than people like with their finances. I think more people with their finances might know kind of how to get back to and reset, whether they choose to do it or not. It's up to them. I think less people know how to get back to resetting their health or resetting physically for themselves. What would you think about that statement? Would you say that's
Mm,
maybe true?
that's a very interesting statement here. I'd say you're probably right, but I would love to hear, from the people here. What would you say? Do you feel like you have a better idea of how to reset on the health side of things or on the wealth side of things? But I'll say maybe you're probably right. But on the health side of things, man, I would say we also make it complex. But yeah, yeah, I'd say you're probably right. I'd say you're
Mm,
probably right.
yeah.
But so let's talk about it a little bit on the health side, so we can try to break it down, maybe demystify it a little bit.
Mm,
Um, I'd say you go to this on the health side. You go to the center, right? Hippocrates, father of Western medicine, has taught us. Traditional Asian medicine has taught us. Traditional African medicine has taught us. Ancient medicine has taught us. On the center of all things is right. It's what you eat, right? It's your
diet.
diet,
Yes,
right? It's your
diet.
diet. And so I would say that's where they start. We go to the center, we go to the gut. And a great place for a lot of people to start is to take a vacation, right?
Mm,
Whether it be a solid food vacation, cooked food vacation, a vacation from foods that require a lot of energy to break down and absorb. There's 9 different forms of vacation that one could take, but I think it's a great place to start. And everybody has known for a long time that I'm a huge proponent of a solid food vacation juice feast. I'll say that is one of many. Um, I'm not as I'm not as loud on that recently because I just want people to take one. Just do something,
yeah.
right? And based on where you are, it might any one of those could make a difference in where you are. I host groups. I host groups. I don't host individuals, but I host groups to help people take that on for themselves. I think it's a great place to start with the gut. And in the process of doing that, you can go back to certain habits that we know um, are key to our health. For example, uh, returning back to our breath, right? Just paying closer attention to our breath, whether it be through very simple breath work that could take a minute, right? The
Mhm.
4-7-8 method by Dr. Andrew Wiley. I mean, very simple method, takes about a minute, maybe a minute and a half to do, to about other methods that take about 10 minutes to do, which have been literally proven to lower our chance or decrease our levels of stress, like we just talked about, and decrease our chances of getting things like cancer, right?
Yeah.
And very simple, but it's again bringing that back into our awareness,
Yeah.
and bringing that practice back into our lives. To
Can
other
can
things, go ahead.
can I was gonna say, can you explain that 4-7? Was it 4-7-8?
Yeah, 4-7-8. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You can
Can
go YouTube it. YouTube it. So if you don't
mm,
remember this for some reason, just YouTube it.
mm,
Um, so it's a 4 count in, 7 count hold, 8 count exhale. Right,
mm,
very simple. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Hold. Exhale through the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very simple. Repeat.
mm.
I mean, there's no reason to complicate it more than that. We could talk about, all the different things and whatnot, but that's all it is. It's just manipulating the speed of the breath, and that's what breath work really is, to different counts. And there are hundreds of different counts, but that's just a very simple one that he's done a lot of work on. Dr. Andrew
Mhm.
has done a lot of work on. It's very simple. It takes what, like a minute, less,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Math is not my thing. So
Depends how many times you do it, but yeah, it probably somewhere it's like 20 seconds, so you get 3 per something
sure,
like that. But
yeah,
anyways, like I think this conversation's important. You're a master at this stuff. Could be like this is what you do. You know what I mean? You study this stuff. You've been teaching this. You coaching this. Like this is what you do. But I think for the average listener and the average, the corporate athlete that is focused on, yes, some of their health and right their money and their career and right their family life and relationships, that's there. I don't know that someone takes this as serious or understands like why this is even a reset, why this is necessary. Like two things popped up just in those couple things when you talk
yeah,
diet, and then you talk breath,
hmm,
right? Those two things, again, I think, and we've had this conversation a bunch of times on the Good Life, but again, when you have the information, we got to keep getting it to people. Most people start with movement
yeah,
when they're resetting. Most people go
sure,
back to the gym. Most people say, I need to run, I need to walk, I need to move, right? Like it's like the first thing. But you're saying the first two things you just mentioned was diet, which subconsciously I think everyone knows, consciously or subconsciously. I think
sure,
everyone kind of understands, like, yeah, what I put in is probably not the best, or it could improve. but they still might not know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? On
Mm-hmm.
that side. And then I think people completely miss the boat on the breath side of things and what that does and how that resets. So I want you to
Sure.
go deeper into that for the person that's hearing you for the first time around like, okay, why is this a reset? Like, how does this make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I appreciate you slowing that down for me to go a little bit deeper, man, because sometimes you can't skip over some things. Um, let's come from a couple of different perspectives. First and foremost, think about it this way, right? A lot of people may never go to the gym or work out, but everybody eats and everybody breathes,
Hmm.
as far as I know, right? So, just from that perspective alone, um, when we got to start with the biggest stones, right? That exercise you did in whatever grade you were in, where it's like, time management. How do you fit all these rocks into this container? You start with the big ones and then the small one. It's kind of like that, or you start with the big uh, uh, brush strokes, right?
Mm,
The things that are going to make the biggest impact with the least amount of effort. It's quite a bit of effort to get yourself to go to the gym, depending on what your situation is. For the average person, for the average corporate athlete, it's an endeavor.
mhm,
Maybe you don't belong to a gym, so you got to go sign up for the gym. You got to wake up, you got to go, you got to fit it in your schedule. You got to figure out what to do while you're at the gym, et cetera, et cetera. And for a lot of people, like even a certain training, right? If your diet and your breathing is not right,
mhm.
going to the gym and doing what you did in high school may actually be detrimental to you at this point in your life because you are deconditioned. You're
Explain that.
actually okay. So let's go a little bit deep. You're actually putting your body at risk because you're not prepared to do that. You
Mm,
did that when you were 18.
right.
All right. Now you're what? Whatever age you are now. And you're trying to do the same thing because that's what you remember from football practice, from basketball practice, from track practice, from whatever when you were 18, when your body was a lot more forgiving. you know your knees were supple and your breath was smelling like Similac, right? So you had the nature had a lot more forgiveness for you, right? And now cobwebs, a little cobwebs in there a little bit, and you go back to doing those things, it could actually cause more harm.
Hmm.
So you got to actually work your way up to that, right?
Got it.
Correcting a few mistakes that you've been making for a couple of years with your diet, paying attention to your breath, which are bigger brush strokes just in general, um, will help you prep to kind of do the more aggressive things like the movement, right? Obviously, it's important to move. I mean, but there's different levels of movement. You don't have to go to the gym to reset. You
Right.
could now put a 20-minute walk and chat with your spouse in your calendar or in your daily schedule, and that might actually make more of an impact for you than going to the gym to do bench press.
Mm,
You see what I'm saying? Or a 10-minute meditation with a focus on breath and spinal alignment might actually be where you start. And that could have a greater impact on you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually than going to the gym to go do some squats,
mm,
right? So we got to think about it in terms of ramping up. In terms of ramping up, let's do the things that 80-20 rules. Let's start with the things that has the greatest impact or the least cost, if you will, actually, right?
mhm,
Cost in time, cost in of physically speaking, like it
mhm.
costs you something to train. You have to
Right.
tear down muscle fibers. It costs you something to train. And you should train. But if you're resetting, I would suggest a ramp up, right? Let's start with things that are low hanging fruits, right? A little attention to breath, a little attention to diet, a little attention to accessing the sun a little bit more,
Mm,
grounding a little bit more. Um, putting a morning routine in place, tongue brushing, right? A little meditation,
mhm,
um, you know, getting increasing your level of hydration, not necessarily water, but increasing your level of hydrating liquids. Now, again, we can get into quite into the details, but we want to stay at the things that might make. So let's just give those five things right there.
mm,
Sun, water, breath, food, right? And then add in and a little meditation, and then you can get into a little bit of let's say 20 minutes of movement, and the movement doesn't need to be what Arnold Schwarzenegger did to go star in Terminator,
Terminator.
right? It can be maybe do a little deep knee bends, because those knees haven't bent that way in a long time, brother, right? Yeah.
That's so true. Just for us old guys, no, we're not old at all. But for real, like that deconditioning where like, like you just haven't used those muscles in the same ways as you did 20 years ago,
Right. Or
right?
even five, brother.
Or
Like,
even 5, yeah.
a lot can happen in 5 years. You've been
For
you've been going into the office for 5 years. You notice, man, like I don't quite feel the same way,
right. Right.
And you can't just, listen, you take
Right.
pro athletes, right, that have been out of the league for 5 years. They don't they don't function the same. They don't look the same, right? Especially those that come right out, right? They're like, man, I've been training for a living for how many ever years. You see how many of them just say, forget it, I don't want to train anymore, and they do a little bit of an arc. They get real big, real fast, and then they kind of like, okay, wife is like, come on, honey, you
I
gotta
I
come
don't
back to
like
the
to
farm.
I don't like to body shame. I'm not a body shamer. So just, right, take this with a grain of salt. And I don't like talking about people either. But the one athlete that gets me every time is Antoine Walker. I saw him pop up a couple times on my feed. And from remembering when he played for the Celtics and remembering the shape he was in to seeing how he looks now, again, no body shaming. Don't really like talking about people, but that is a stark thing of like, man, you really kind of let yourself go, brother. Huh? Like you were an athlete, you really kind of let it
Antoine
go.
Walker, I haven't
Antoine
seen him.
Walker. Yeah, take
I
a
gotta look this up.
yeah, take a look, man.
Well,
He and again, he kinda I don't know if he and again, I don't know if he's not healthy, right?
um,
Or whatever the case is, like sick or anything, but like he is not
yeah,
in athlete shape. Like he's not you wouldn't even know that he was an athlete. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Wasn't he the first? A little off topic here, but wasn't he the first like NBA player to get a $100 million contract?
He was something like that. I don't know if he was the first, but he was up to, like I know he signed something major back in
Yeah,
the day.
yeah.
And from a financial standpoint too, he went broke. Like,
Right. I think he was, man. I think he was actually. But this is a great example, because this is why it's important, and we can say the same thing over and over and over again, and it still applies, right?
mm,
Because there's like, one, it applies to different people, or maybe different people might hear different episodes, but also, look at Mr. Walker, for example, right? Being an athlete does not equals healthy.
right,
Certainly doesn't equal healthy habits.
right.
Okay. So, we look at athletes and we idolize them, and we look at them as the pinnacle of health, and that's not necessarily true. So, when you or a corporate athlete starts to reset, or wants to come back to the farm, or wants to start doing something, and we start doing what we see uh, uh, Terrell Owens or Reggie Bush or whoever, name your favorite player,
Mm.
does, right? It doesn't even make any sense. First and foremost, a pro football player doesn't do the same thing as a pro basketball player, doesn't do the same thing as a pro swimmer. That alone should tell you that, hold on, something, there's something to this.
Just for
It's very
context,
specific.
I don't think either one of them play football currently
Who?
at all. Terrell Owens or Reggie Bush.
Oh yeah. That's right. No. You're right. You're right. None of them do. They haven't played in a while. Terrell Owens though, in fantastic shape. Let me tell you that.
I
Yeah,
think I've seen.
To is in
Yeah.
fantastic shape.
So look at the stark difference though of what we just named, right? Like
Yeah,
he hasn't been in the league for a while, but seems to be in fantastic shape. Maybe that is healthy. Maybe it's not. Maybe he doesn't have healthy habits, right?
yeah,
Because again, what do we always say? Wait, weight is tertiary, right? Like it's not the
absolutely.
so.
Absolutely.
But definitely,
Aesthetics, performance, and vitality and longevity. Those
mm,
are the ones I look at. Are not they it's like a Venn diagram. They overlap, but they're not necessarily the same thing.
mm,
I think for the corporate athlete, ideally you want to be right where all three of those circles overlap. And I always draw this diagram out. It's somewhere on my pages. You can look for it. But at certain periods in your life, you might focus on one circle over the other, but to kind of be function at quote unquote optimal, right? As a corporate athlete, maybe not as a basketball player, maybe not because you're going to lean performance more than you're going to lean even aesthetics.
mm,
Basketball player doesn't necessarily don't really care what you look like. Can you perform?
right.
Right? Maybe Kobe cared a little bit about what Shaq looked like when he came back, but that was only because he couldn't perform like
Right.
he used to. Right?
Right.
Like,
Same
what'd
thing
you
with
do
like
off season?
same thing with Zion, right? Like if you want to talk
Yes.
basketball, right? He just
Right.
can't
Right.
perform at that weight, brother.
Correct. Correct. And if he could perform at that weight,
He'd have been fine.
they wouldn't care.
They wouldn't care at all.
Correct. Correct. Right. If Zion was on the football field, they wouldn't necessarily care that he's holding extra weight. In
Right.
fact, it might be encouraged or help him perform at that level, right? So I almost think, and I use the term or coin the term corporate athlete because we have to really look at what are you performing? What is your thing that you're doing every
Mm,
day? What do you have to be at peak for, right? What is your performance? For a lot of us, is doing stuff like this,
right.
where we're sitting all day,
Right.
right? Believe it or not, you actually have to train to sit all day and not have adverse effects.
Mm,
Because if your muscular skeletal nervous system can't hold up to sit in all day, you're going to start compensating, right? You're going to start compensating, and I'm doing this as to kind of try to show compensating. If you're wondering what's
we
going on,
understand.
yeah. For those on audio that can't see, you're compensating as maybe you're slouching or whatever. That doesn't come out of like, oh, I feel cool. That
Mm,
comes out of like, I'm more comfortable this way,
yeah.
actually. Right? It actually feels better for me to be in this position. But is that better for my muscular structure, my nerve? No, it's not.
Bro, you're
I,
preaching. Listen, this is I have a saying that I say to people when I like go directly at people. I say, "Hey, if I hit you, I didn't mean to miss you." Right? And you just hit me on that one because that feels like me. Like I sit for a living. I sit in front of a computer for a living, and you probably can see it in like if people watch, like, and now people are going to pay attention to this stuff.
uh-oh.
I adjust myself a lot because I'm at least aware a bit when my posture changes, but it changes so frequently in my day when I'm sitting in the chair, and it's because of that. It's because I know I've probably not done right the best job of training my body of how to sit properly, of how to, and I just jump right in. A lot of times, uh well, people might know this or might not know this. I've been doing Zoom appointments for 5 years, right, in my line of
Mm,
work. Like, this is not new. This is not 2020 thing for me, right?
Hmm.
Like, I saw the digital thing coming a long time ago. A long time ago in financial services, I was like, yeah, this drive into people's house thing is not going to last long, especially as I'm trying to scale. So I got to figure this out. So I've been doing Zoom and Skype and all this stuff since 2018, 2017, right? So this has now been my like main mode of, I guess, operating, and now I feel some of those same things. Like, I feel my body overcompensating for sitting down, and like,
Mm,
and I'm just a little bit more aware by working a bit with you, and then just right being getting new material and new information. So I'm aware of it, but it's not fully like corrected by any means. You know what I mean?
sure,
So I know a lot of
sure.
people probably deal with the same type of stuff, because I know just by you saying that, I know I'm dealing with that.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's happening on this side in terms of could give you guys a little bit of insight here is I'm actually gearing my business towards that,
Mm,
right? Because what does this mean? In a way, the same way you saw business going into the digital age,
mhm,
I see our health needs as the corporate athlete going into in this
mm,
direction. What do I mean by that? So it's three components to what I do, right? First is teaching people how to live, right? How do you eat? What are the habits that you should be doing on a day-to-day basis?
mm,
How do you reset yourself when you know you're off, right? And by the habits, you're familiar with this. I came up with something called the scorecard, which
mhm,
has been evolving, right? And
mhm,
it shows you, hey, listen, if you maintain a high score on these habits, on these daily habits, you're on the right track, right?
right,
These are habits that, based on research, based on my own experience with working with a lot of people, based on my own experience in doing this for myself, these are the key 20 habits to health. Now, of course, you can narrow that down to 10, et cetera, to those that are more important to individuals, but you narrowed it down and you follow. So I actually teach people on how to do that the best, and trying to really literally cut the noise around it, right?
mhm,
As in, like, if you pay attention to these things, you may not know all the 20, 30 pieces of research that go into it, but trust me, you're going to feel better,
right,
right? You're going to function better. That's number one, right? Number two is we actually need hands-on work, right? For our bodies to be prepped to actually do this stuff.
mm,
What we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And that's not just you, brother. Like, if you think about the normal corporate athlete, they're on the phone or they're on the computer.
that's true.
Most of their career, they're on the phone or they're on the computer. Most corporate athletes are not out there on the field walking.
Right,
They're just not, right? And even the people that are walking they have three major things that pop up: back issues, number one; neck and shoulder issues, number two; and hand and wrist issues coupled with foot issues, right? And
mhm,
I actually spend time studying this as to, like, what is the treatment protocol for those things.
right,
So even if I'm not doing it, I know how to refer you and what to look for. When I'm talking to you and you give me the symptoms, I know, okay, oh, okay, yeah, this is what's going on. What do you do? Okay, I'm seeing you on the screen. I can see what's going on,
right,
right? We take pictures of your actual structure of what's happening, right? Um, and actually go ahead and help you with that,
right,
right? So that's number two, right? And number three, how do you then this is now where we get to the actual training movement aspect of it. How do you then put corrective things into place that you can do on your own.
Mm.
Right. So, bro, before we even get to move, like we've done so many other things because those things are gonna have a big bang for you. Like they're gonna really set you up, and not just corrective things, but then how do we do things to support, supplement, and actually move you forward to strengthen you, right? Because once you correct, supplement, then have to strengthen to actually train you in the direction of where you're already headed. So if you're a basketball player, I need to train you in the ability to be able to shift your weight, stay within your center. But as a corporate athlete, we're still training, most we being the health field are training folks in the way of like athletes, right?
Hmm.
But we actually need to train them in a way of corporate athletes. Like, what does your body require, right?
Mm.
And for me personally, what I've identified is a movement program that focuses on your core.
Mm.
That is number one. And I don't mean core as in abs. I mean core as in your trunk, your entire trunk,
Hmm.
right? Because if that's stable, right? If this is stable, and then your breath can function through it like a straw, right? That those are the things that are going to, and then when you get up, you can actually be in locomotion
Mm.
without back pain, foot pain, hip. Those are the things that are going to set you up to be a successful corporate athlete.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So yeah,
That's huge, by the way. Like, you know, the fact that you're working on that side and you can see that, I agree 1,000%, right? Like you should be able to see the fact that like, you know, down the line, what's going to happen is you're going to actually, I got interrupted.
uh,
I was like, I
Ozzy,
lost
my
my,
man, speaking straight from God right now.
yeah, I was like, I looked up, and my wife was coming downstairs, and they distract me. But anyway, damn, and they made me lose my train of thought. Damn you, woman! No, I'm joking. But no, I got
That's
you.
2 nights on the couch.
I know, right? But anyway, again, being able for you to see, have the foresight that, like, man, people are gonna need this, right? This is something that people are for sure gonna need because of how our society is. I think there's a lot of business opportunities and opportunities for you to implement these types of things. I'm sure you already think of this stuff, bro. But for like companies, for right, like again, having this ability to move the health and wellness space into corporate settings, right? For corporate athletes. And um, I think it's going to be important. The more that we are working in front of a computer, the more that we are digital, I think the more this type of stuff is needed. Those areas that you named, back issues, neck and shoulder, and then like wrist or hands or feet type stuff. Like again, if you hit me, I'm sure you didn't mean to miss me, bro. You didn't mean to miss me. It's not that I have pains in those areas, so to speak, but if I could point to areas that need, it would be those areas. Not probably more my feet than my hands, but like for sure back, for sure neck, if I'm the right. And again, I still do a lot of the stuff that we're talking, you know, I still look at the scorecard. I still do, you know, get my meditation in. I still do you know, spend time outside. It's getting a little bit colder, but you know, no excuse on the East Coast here, right? But still spending some time outside, still doing tongue brushing, still doing right some of these things that are giving energy, because I know that I sit so long all day and that's what also keeps me going. But from a body aspect, yeah, I deal with these things. So I can only imagine all the other corporate athletes out there that are dealing with something similar. And you having a solution for it, man, is really going to help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Ash, let's make sure we get that whole clip before us is describing, the solutions for the corporate athlete. Let's get that whole clip, not just get that whole thing, but also partly because it's important, and I want to expand on this and speak on this a little bit more. and also get feedback from corporate athletes a little bit more as we progress, right? And we mean the good life, cut the noise, me as in a career as a whole, um, because the more I do, the more I see
Hmm.
as to what are the needs that are out there, right? What is the need of the because the goal is to impact as many lives as possible and when it comes to health, right? And it just so happens that most people are corporate athletes,
Hmm.
right? I'm a corporate athlete. You're a corporate athlete. Most people are just and that is just what we do. That's what we do for a living. We don't play sports for a living. It's what we
Right.
do for a living, right? And these are the things as a result, right, of the way we live. These are our health needs, right? Because that's just it. If we lived differently, and that's the thing, I find that in the health space, there's a lot of conversation about living like our ancestors, right? We won't mention any names or bring out an axe for primals. All right. We won't mention any names here. All right. You know who I'm talking about. Primals want to know. Right. Right. We won't mention any names,
Uh,
but but guess what? We don't live in a forest.
right.
We don't hunt. Do you know how to hunt?
I do not.
Okay. We don't do that.
Uh, yeah.
We don't chase our food. We don't do that. We go to the grocery store.
Right.
Okay. Right. So, in a way, like if we pay attention, like we have to develop systems for the way we actually live. Right. That's what's missing. And guess what? Most people are not willing to go out with their shirts off, barefoot, hunt and prey. I guess I
Mhm.
don't know. You know,
Mhm.
I don't know what my man does, and y'all know who I'm talking about. We're not gonna give him free press on this show, all right? It's just not practical.
Right.
So, in having all of that knowledge, because most people that study this stuff for a living have that knowledge, they know
Right.
they 9 tenets of ancestral living. I was talking about this before I even heard of my man, right?
Mhm.
But and I'm not the only one. He's not the only one. A lot of people are in the know of like, okay, this is what was, but how do you put it into practice
Right.
right now in our modern life? How do you put it into practice? So these are the things, and some things are real easy to teach, they're real easy to coach, and others aren't. So my whole thing is like making it practical, making it applicable, making it so we can actually put it into practice of like how are we living right now? Due to the fact that most people are in front of a computer.
Right.
Most people don't walk that much. Most people that's just the reality of the situation.
That's it, man. And that's the smartest. Again, this is where the need comes in. This is where the need comes in for us to see that, man, it's not practical for us to go hunt our food. Like most people don't live that way. So in our habitat, in our situation, in our environment, what is the most practical things to do in order to reset our health, to get back to a place where we are at our peak, right? And again, I think that you've figured out some of these things that people need to pay attention to, and I'd be excited to kind of hear from some of the other corporate athletes to chime in and say, like, are these things that you're dealing with, and could you see the same needs for yourself or for the people that you work with or for the other entrepreneurs or people that you are around in your environment. How much are we really focused on some of these tenets of our breath or our posture or our core or any of these types of things, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'd love to hear from folks. And then I would love to revisit this conversation. We kind of took reset and expanded it a little bit. Um, but I'd love to revisit this conversation on a deeper level. But to wrap up and to bring it back to our topic specifically for today, I think taking the time to bring ultimately a reset comes down to bringing awareness to what are you doing.
Mm,
Really is what it is, right? When you say
that's it.
watch your money, as going and out, watch your habits.
That's
That's what
right.
a fast is. I always talk about a fast, a vacation, or whatever. It's not about, oh, stop eating. Stop eating and drink juice. It's
Right.
not what it's about.
Right.
It's about bringing a sense of awareness that was kind of getting out of hand.
Right.
You're not. We get to a point where things are so stressful, things are so busy that we're just mindlessly doing things, mindlessly shoving food into our mouth, mindlessly getting up and, all right, what is the thing I have to do next just to survive? What is the thing I have to do next just because that's what I have to do? And we don't live with we don't bring a sense of awareness as to how we're living. We're not living intentionally. So it's taking a step back and bringing a sense of awareness back, a sense of intentionality back to our breath, to our movement, to how we eat, to how we interact with our environment. And these are the things that do put us back into harmony with nature, which
Mhm.
ultimately leads to ease and not dis-ease.
That's huge. That's huge. And again, just my last 2 cents tying that into money, guys. That is why, to get back to that harmony, you got to look at your money, see where it's going. Inevitably, every time we do this and sit down with someone that's looking to reset, I'm always like, have you looked at your money? Do you know exactly where all the money went last month? That's it. Not a ballpark, not I have an idea, actually looking at it. Because in the money world, this is why it's great. Money is just rooted in absolutes because it's all numbers, right? So you can literally just look at the numbers. We often try to look at them and we add emotions to them: shame, judgment, guilt. Oh, I can't believe I do this. Why has this happened? All right, this is good. This is not good, right? We're always kind of doing that. But money is easy. Just look at the number. Was it $400.17? Was it $282.20? That's all. Unemotional about it. Do you know what's happening? That's how we reset. You don't have to do that forever with your money, but if you are looking to reset, you have to dive in and look at the numbers, and that's going to help you tremendously. That's all I got, bro.
That's it. That's it. Hey, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of The Good Life. And man, if you like this episode, if you got something out of it, make sure you share it with somebody that will love or hate this episode, because all press is good press, as you guys already know. And we appreciate you guys for being with us. You gonna put something in here, bro?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not
Perfect.
at all.
Perfect. So until next week, peace.
Later, y'all.